Okay, so welcome everyone to Tydy Tea Time once again with Soumya, Kiran, and me. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So, guys, we had an episode where we spoke about quiet quitting. Do you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
hmm
Now we are talking about loud quitting, or what everyone is now talking about is quit talk. Does anyone know what that is? Everyone knows what that is?
Why is everything about quitting though? Our company is
I
doing
don't
such a
know.
bad job.
You tell me what's
Yeah.
happening in this world. Why are people? I mean, it's interesting actually. I mean, we can laugh about it, but it's interesting that people are
Mm.
actually quitting as much as they are. Like they're saying enough. That's it. I cannot take this anymore. It's very very interesting, and it's like a larger story there that we have to talk about. But very quickly, for those of you who've joined us and don't know what Quit Talk is, Soumya, can you quickly introduce the idea?
Yeah, sure. I think so. Quit Talk is this trend that's currently happening majorly on the TikTok channels. What people are doing is they are publicly going and announcing their resignations, their conversations with their managers during resignations as well on TikTok. So it's I think it started with one person in the retail industry doing that announcement through their intercom, and then it caught fire, and then everyone's kind of picked onto that trend.
And
When,
this
when
is
did
not
this trend
very,
start?
yeah, it's not very new, right? It's
It's
happened for a
not.
while.
It's not. It's been around. I think since 2022, late 2022.
Okay,
So
yeah.
is
So
it picking up now or is it just continuing?
It's like a conversation that's still happening.
it
Okay.
is picking up. I mean, supposedly there are some 2,500 plus videos on TikTok with over 82 million views. And this
Wow.
is growing every day. Like people are actively, either they are quitting on like virtually, or putting up recordings of when they are quitting and having conversations with their managers like Soumya mentioned, or they're just talking about the idea, or they're just talking about how they're thinking about doing it. There's so much going on. And it just makes me wonder, right? Like, this is truly a new age where people are so comfortable, and I have to put it like that because they're so comfortable talking about something so private and personal on a social platform. um, does that make either of you uncomfortable a little bit?
I don't think
Would you do
it's new, right? Because people have been doing forum based reviews for a while, which is fairly public.
that?
Yes, you
Yeah,
don't show your face, you don't show your actual emotions. It's whatever is written and how the other person interprets that writing, right? I think what's new over here is the actual show of emotion through video, which is
yeah,
that much more real. But we've always depended on reviews. Even if we were buying something or if we're looking for a new job, which I haven't done in forever, you would always look for reviews on how that company is doing, right?
yeah,
And what people are saying about it. So I don't
absolutely.
know if it's new from that perspective. What is new is very confidently giving that conversation a face,
Mm,
and I think that's the interesting sort of update to
yeah,
reviews, right?
yeah, yeah,
I think that's what makes me uncomfortable, right? I am uncomfortable with this because I don't think I'll have the courage to go on the platform with my face, with my name, and say whatever people are choosing to say. I think that is probably something I'll be uncomfortable with. But I think because this is the generation, I think this is something that's coming out of Gen Z. I feel like they've always been more expressive on the internet than probably any other generation. So I think it comes so much more naturally to them than it would come for, say, me in the situation.
yeah. In fact,
Yeah, I
I
mean
was
they're
just,
recording their entire sort of life
Yeah.
online, right?
oh, for sure.
They're on stories all the time. They're on, they're everything from parties to from school life. It's all been pretty much online. So I think they're very comfortable with that. We as oldies feel that, oh no, you cannot show your face and put a face to the name and blah blah blah. It just becomes too embarrassing, and but they're not really concerned about that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I like, I said we're a generation that was taught. and that you do not wash your dirty linen in public. And we kind of, embody that everywhere, right? And but then again, this generation that we're talking about, this new generation, they have seen their parents struggle through their corporate life, so to speak, right? They have seen that. It's not like they're not aware. And they're, some people are saying, oh, this is highly narcissistic, entitled behavior, it's unprofessional. It's very easy to brand this and dismiss it, but I think that's a mistake, because this generation has seen a lot of angst in their private lives, where they've seen their parents struggle, they've seen parents, giving everything to companies and companies not giving enough back. And now they are in a time when employee experience is becoming a bigger deal and becoming more and more important, right? They've also lived through COVID, where the conversation was squarely about mental health and wellness and self care and all of those things, right? Which we are valuing more and more today. So I think this is probably a result of that. I'm just wondering, is it too much? Because is there a better way to do it? And what really are the repercussions for you as an individual in your future, right? Like, is it that a concern at all?
I mean, how are
I
companies responding to it, right? I think that's the first question I'll ask both of you.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
mean,
seen companies respond to it at all, or
so far, I haven't seen anything, but I know a lot of people are saying that, this is a good time for you to show who you really are and work on your employer brand and employer
hmm.
as and your reputation as a company. Because are you going to respond to this with empathy, or are you going to respond to this by being cold and, dismissing it? I think that kind of shows what your true character is, right?
I think it's also interesting. So because I live in a place where we don't have access to TikTok, so we don't entirely see what the conversation is. I just went into YouTube and tried to find some compilation of this trend, and there are a few videos that are coming out of a place of spite or revenge, if I can put it that way. But a lot of it is also about people, one, either sharing their experience about that entire anxiety of going in and saying that they want to resign and what comes for them after that, or of those people who are like, I'm quitting the corporate and I want to start something of my own. I want to find out what's new for me. So there's that entire piece as well. So I'm not sure if we are kind of distorting this in a way that articles online are probably only taking out that part where employees are doing it out of spite and not also seeing this trend, like you said, Debbie, that comes out of a generation that's seen the importance of mental health, that's seen people's struggles during COVID, that's seen their parents probably uh, burn out in the process of trying to do a lot of things, right? So I think it also comes from that place. I'm not sure if we're probably seeing that balanced view in a lot of articles that we're reading online as well.
those who are actually quitting a corporate life to start something on their own for mental health, please let me know who they are. I'd like to advise them against it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, but jokes apart, I think that's okay, right? Where you're kind of giving everyone an update on how you see your life changing. That's okay. If it's out of spite, I think it'll be a little bit more challenging for. And now I'm just putting on the company lens, right? It would be much more challenging for the company to sort of respond to that. Companies have always had this customer feedback online. All of us do it. We're pissed off with the brand. We'll go onto X or onto Insta or whatever, and we'll just. I think all of us have done it. We'll say, "Oh
Yeah.
man, we're really pissed off with you for doing this, and thank you for ruining my flight, and thank you for ruining my trip, and blah blah blah." So we have done that as customers, not just the Gen Zs. I think even as millennials and everyone else has done that. But as customers,
Yeah.
what is different being an employee though?
No, you're right. I
That's
think
probably the question.
that does, make you think, because this is suddenly fair game, right? Like you said, for ever, companies have used customers either as their spokespeople or their brand ambassadors, where you proudly put out positive customer reviews. And you've also done that with your employees, by the way, where you proudly put out
Yeah.
employee testimonials on your website. On your career page, you have happy employees smiling, laughing, saying great things about the company. So you should be completely open to the opposite happening. In the customer, like
Yep.
in the consumer world, customers give you negative reviews, you deal with it, you correct, you course correct, and you deal with it, right? Whether it's fair or unfair, whatever it might be. Similarly, employees have every right to go out and give you a negative review, and in most cases, chances are it will not come from a place of spite, because that's kind of dangerous, and people are not foolish. They know that, okay, if this is truly being unfair, then I have legs to stand on. My argument has legs, versus if it's a random video that you're doing because your manager shouted at you, you're not going to be able to back yourself up, right? And there will be that one off, but then there's a larger story here, which is, like you were saying, uh, our employees, and we keep saying this at Tidy, by the way, that's another thought I want to quickly put in here. Employees need to be treated more and more like customers. Employees
Yeah.
need to have an experience which is more like the customer experience, right? And that's what a lot of companies are trying to change today in the workplace.
Yeah.
Interesting, because since we're bringing in the customer angle, I'm just wondering. So I've had experiences where I would probably send out complaints about a service over email, or I'll try to call them up and not get a resolution, but I tweet about it and I get an instant answer and resolution. So will this also work in that way, that, oh, if I sit down to talk with the organization, maybe I'm not getting any response, but when I put it out there publicly, maybe there's going to be a reform from that sense.
Absolutely. It's just like
I
the
think so.
labor force resistance, right, of 2024. Back in the day, you would have people who were unhappy about something standing outside the office building, picketing with posters and saying, this is not working, or equal pay or equal rights or whatever it might be, right? And here now, that protest is being taken to the virtual space. So the response should be pretty much the same. It's easier? Is it as effective? Are companies really going to go and start monitoring social media? Is it going to change the way, for example, I'm wondering, right, as a customer, how many times will I actually like keep track of, okay, employees putting up videos about a brand that I, buy from? It's just, I wonder how far that impact will be versus if it's in the news because employees are complaining outside an office building, right? It's not the same, no?
I think the difference is, for picketing, you basically need a ton of people to come together. For
Yeah.
anything virtually, one person's video can go viral much more than that one news article, right? So I think the exponential power from a social media perspective is much higher than people standing outside the office and unionizing and trying to drive a point across. But
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing is, there are more and more sort of, I would say, we keep talking about this, right? Is that everyone started looking at employee experience as a critical thing during the pandemic, and now it's started to kind of drop again. No one's really concerned about it as much anymore. In 2024, the markets are down. Everyone's like, oh man, it's survival. If you want a job, you got it. Otherwise, there aren't that many jobs in the market. So it's kind of become more of an employer sort of world. The reason I asked about the timeline is, it's interesting. Is this going to kind of go beyond timelines? This sort of
Mm.
loud quitting, is it going to go beyond timelines, or is it restricted to a bad market where people are frustrated because there aren't enough opportunities either, right? Is that when it's going to hit its peak, and then it's going to die when things start becoming good for employee experience again?
This it's a great question, actually, and it's something that we should all think about as well. And I will digress a little bit because it reminds me of when the Me Too movement started across the world, right? And the reason I bring that up, so many people came out and started talking about being ill treated and
Yep.
abused or whatever in the workplace. And it backfired for a lot of women, wherein because they spoke out, they were not getting employment easily anymore.
Hmm.
So what are the repercussions of something like this, right? It's Me Too is obviously at a much more serious. I mean, I'm not taking away. I don't know the specific complaints people might have while loud quitting, but this is maybe just as serious. Where does this affect your chances of getting hired later? Will we find out eventually that all of those folks who actually were loud about quitting on a social platform were not getting jobs? And does that then die down? Do people stop making noise on social platforms? Is
As
that
a
what?
manager, are you going to stop hiring someone if you saw them loud quitting?
It's a good question, and I don't know. I mean, I've never been faced with that, and maybe. But I'm naturally a very empathetic person, by the way, guys. No, but it's about getting to the bottom of it, right? Is it fair? What was the reason? And but not everyone has the time to do that, or you think people will take the time to actually get to the bottom of what happened, right? Like, for example, if it's a Me Too story, then I will, as a woman, as a manager, as a conscientious citizen, I will say no. Of course, I will get to the bottom of this, and I will not discriminate on the basis of something like this. um Quit talk, again, really depends, right? What the reason is, what they're saying. It's a tough one. I don't know.
But so I think this loud quitting trend may die down, but I think there's this entire new personality that the Gen Zs are bringing into the workforce that will bring about a lot more trends because they are really concerned about authenticity. They're really concerned about not being something online, not being something else professionally, being something else personally. They just want to be the same person everywhere. So they're not probably someone who will journal all of their personal experiences. They have it all online for everyone to see. So
Yeah.
that's a personality that's coming into the workforce. So a lot of conversations, trends around mental health, burnout, I think these will keep coming up and going off. I think that's something that this new generation is going to bring about. It almost reminds me when I joined the workforce, the fact that people would quit jobs within 1 to 2 years was seen as wrong. I've
Yeah.
had people tell me,
Oh, yeah.
"Don't job hop. Someone will see that and you won't get a job." But now we kind of are accepting that. So I think those kind of changes will definitely happen with what these folks are bringing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's very, very important now that companies start, like I keep bringing that word back, right? Empathy. Dealing with all of this with empathy and not dismissing anything, because at the end of the day, it is a cry for help of some sort. It is a cry for change, like demanding change, perhaps. And things are, they have to, right? I mean, mental health is not something you can dismiss ever, especially with everything that we know now and are learning every single day. So I think, again, the onus comes back to leadership, to HR, to managers, to truly try and understand people and start treating people like people, and not as, as someone put it very nicely the other day, as just resources, or just units that will give you an end product at the end of the day, right?
An output.
But
Yeah.
And out, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But does it make it harder now, to harder than ever for HR, who has to go into crisis mode, or what's the firefighting mode every time a video comes out? So do they, I don't know, do you respond to every video? What would you do? What would
What would
the
we
advice?
do? What would we do
What would we do?
if we had someone who did a
Hmm.
loud quitting video on, let's say, Instagram? Because in India there's no TikTok, and
Yeah.
that happens. So what would we do? What would we want to do, right? And I
For,
don't think
for
we've
us,
talked about it before, so this is just a open discussion in front of everyone. um,
yeah.
I think
It,
always something for me that has always been front and center is building Tidy has always been about the culture and the community and the people that have come together to kind of build it.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever followed that equation of growth at any cost, at anyone's cost, and kind of been brutal about that. Um, and I think we were doing a podcast just yesterday, Debbie, where he actually talked about that. Right, there are two types of companies in that matrix, where there are some who just want to grow and will consider you either lazy or productive, and there's another one which wants to look at your welfare and grow with you, so everyone kind of grows together. And for me, I think that resonated a lot, because I think that's where Tidy kind of falls, is growing together as a community. And the reason I say this is because I think the way a company would respond would directly kind of give you an inkling of where that company is in that matrix.
absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
and how they would want to kind of sort of maybe take it forward, right? Um, in our case, I would say we would definitely want to have a conversation with that person if it was that scathing and it was, an all-out sort of, um, yeah, bad review.
Yeah, absolutely.
Been a
If
review.
you're,
It's not been a review, right? It's an experience.
it's an
So if they had
experience.
such a bad experience, that would be something that I would find very uncomfortable to let go of.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it really depends. And sorry, I asked the question, I'm answering, and I'm going all around the place. But I think it also depends a lot on the company and the ethos of the company as to how you would probably respond. So as I said, for me, it'll be all about kind of going back and saying, hey, no, but really, why did we fail so badly, right?
That's right.
Now the question is, would I take that conversation on that social channel, or would I want to take it offline? I think I would want to take it offline, because no one wants to see a pillow fight, and no one wants to see like back and forths and all of that. So in my opinion, I think
But
I would take
people
it offline
do.
and
People do
fix it.
want to see the back and forth. That's the
I
thing.
know,
They
I know.
do.
That's the drama.
Like,
That's the drama, and that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
entertainment. But I think I'm more concerned about correcting the wrong rather than proving anyone right.
That's right. It's about, you're being held accountable. What are you doing about it though? That's important too. And often if you're correcting a wrong, the person who's made the, who's the aggrieved party, if they speak up and say, "Hey, this was done badly," and then but they've done something to fix it, I think that's better than anything that you can say yourself, right? Ultimately, that's the goal. Can I fix it? Can I make this better? Am I listening? Am I truly just listening, or am I going to continue to be the corporate sitting in my office and not letting anything through? And I think that is the change that we all kind of want to see. But it is hard. There is no doubt about it. Like you yourself said, like in a time when jobs are scarce, suddenly it's all power play, right? The power shifts.
Yeah.
And then what happens to all these people who were so honest, and I would say even maybe brave, coming out and talking about their experience? What happens then, right? You would hope that there are some companies that do value that and will continue to hire from that pool. Well, there will be companies who will just keep saying that, oh, this is unprofessional behavior, and leave it at that, right?
Yep.
That's reality.
I think there's a way to respond to all of this very gracefully as an organization, and I would personally judge that organization by the way they respond to that.
Yeah,
I think no matter how great an organization is, there would always be one person or more who don't align with certain things of that organization. And I think there would be people who come out and be like, okay, this is not working out for me. In that case, I think letting them own that experience and for us to have that conversation to see, does that mean that this is something that our entire organization needs to know about? And is there something to change? I think that's a conscious decision that the organization has to eventually make. But that one comment under that video by that PR team of the organization or the marketing team or whoever that is, I think that comment is something that I'll be like, oh, what is this organization really? And I think that
yeah.
really matters.
Have they taken cognizance of this? What are they saying? Are they open to dialogue, or are they, like
See, but
why?
that'll also get fixed, right? Even if the organization is not like that. The early days of X, or when it was called Twitter, what the early days was of Twitter was all about customers like ranting and maybe
So
like
yeah,
venting and everything, right?
yeah,
All of it as far as customers were concerned about brands. And initially, there were brands who would like go at loggerheads with each individual customer saying, no, you were the one at fault. And that's happened where things have blown up. But then over a period of time, everyone had that standard message. We appreciate every single customer. We would want every one of you to have the best experience. And it is unfortunate that you did not have a good experience. So I'm saying if that becomes the norm, then that one
Yeah.
comment also
also
starts
becomes
becoming
more
fairly standard, right?
Yes.
standardized. Yeah.
It's gonna just go through the flow and kind of get there. So I
It
don't know
just
how
struck.
much you'll get to know about the company from that.
Yeah, because there's what you're saying is there's the canned response, which is actually quite
Yeah.
cold, and then there is the actual real human response. But then one wonders again, right? Like some of the videos I was reading the transcripts was this woman, for example, saying that she felt like there was this elephant's foot on her chest, which was lifted once she had that conversation with her manager saying she's done. How did it get to that stage? Maybe, we can say this because for example, I have a fairly smaller team, so I can manage a lot of people. But where managers have, say, 20, 30 people to manage, for that person to be equipped to have the tools and the skills to be able to stop it going that far, where somebody who's in your team feels like they have an elephant's foot pressing down on their chest, that's a really bad place to get to, right? And I think that's something else that companies need to start addressing. The question to ask is, how do what could I have done to prevent this from coming up in the first place? Right? Was I not listening before? I'm just, wondering, right? It's not, it's no one's perfect. It's hard to do these things, but it's about constant, and we keep talking about this, right? On every Tidy Tea Time that we've done, ultimately it's about open channels of communication between everyone in a team. How do you address something like this before it becomes a TikTok video?
Actually, I would say one thing before we even get there, right? Actually, these TikTok videos might actually be making the employee a customer,
Hmm.
Mhm.
because suddenly everything that was within closed doors, usually employment is all within closed doors, unlike a customer sort of interaction, right? Everything is within closed doors. You have NDAs, you have blah blah blah, all of that to kind of hush you up. um, I wonder if these are the first sort of moves to employees becoming customers. And
Hmm.
so organizations have to really, mold itself to that thought process. And therefore
Yeah.
the way they behave, kind of um, the way they kind of think about their policies, the way they think about their sort of communication, all of it has to change, right? And
Yeah.
employees therefore now suddenly have a voice which is on par with the voice of a customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Absolutely.
Why are
I
you
think.
smiling so much, Soumya?
No, I don't think it's a long way away. What came to my mind was this entire values, mission statements of the organization, where it says customer comes first, and I was imagining,
Hmm.
will employees come first feature there anytime soon? And I felt maybe not
I
yet.
think it
I
will.
believe that's a long way away.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of conversation happening. I'm more optimistic. I think it will happen. I think there are lots of companies already doing it. For example, at Tidy, we try really, really, really hard to make sure that it's the people who are within Tidy are taken care of first before we can take care of the people outside of Tidy. Right? It comes down to
Mhm.
that. So if you're strong in your core and your foundation, and I think there's this one common strain, which is respect for
Yeah.
every person. If you can have that, then you can prevent something from escalating and going that far, perhaps. And if it does escalate, even then it's about respect and then understanding and bringing it back to a place
Yeah,
where.
by the statement that I made, I don't want it to be like generalizing. I have to be respectful and appreciative of all those organizations, and there are organizations that do it. And I've I've also been associated with folks I enjoy working with. So I think that also should be mentioned, that that's definitely there. But more of it. I want more of it.
Yeah. Yep. So all in all, we agree it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, guys.
I think if this is the first step towards employee becoming a customer, yeah, I think it's a really good start.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for being so candid as always. Soumya, you have something to say?
No, for a moment before we started this entire conversation, I thought we were all going to be on the other side of this entire conversation. We would be like, "Oh, this is very uncomfortable. People shouldn't be doing this." But through this conversation, I realized we're not, and that's a nice realization.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you. I really thought that we'll all bring our oldie millennial hats to this whole thing. Or, oh God, this is just not cool. But yeah, I'm glad we've arrived at a place where it kind of makes more sense like this. Because what would you do? Would you ever? Okay, let me ask this question before we quickly wrap up. Would any of you ever think of quit talking? Quitting talk? Which one will it be?
I think the
Currently,
intent
if I
matters.
do it, that would be a really bad sign. If I did it, so maybe I'm out of the equation for now. But yeah,
Yeah, sure.
I think the intent matters. I don't think I'll want to or even have the courage to do it out of spite. But if there's like an entire movement that comes up around making employees more accountable through a process like this, maybe I would consider, but I'll still have to fight a lot of emotions to kind of do that.
Yeah, agreed.
what about you,
Totally.
Debbie?
I think it's the same because I believe strongly in the power of communication. So for me, that will be the last resort. If everything,
But
like
this
you
is a
said,
very powerful form of communication.
I agree. I
Why are
agree.
you saying it's not?
Because I prefer one-on-one communication, perhaps. Now, like I said, it's that tweet. It's that last resort. It's the tweet that you finally put out there because everything else didn't work when you're complaining about, your experience as a customer. This is that. I would do it if nothing else worked and there was a big issue that needed addressing. Yes, perhaps I'll use that platform. But yeah, that's just millennial me responding to this trend. All right. Thank you so much. This was fun as always. And thank you to whoever's joined in today. Do send us any recommendations or suggestions for topics for Tidy Tea Time. Until next time, it's bye from all of us.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.